Welcome to an episode of Barman Saturdays, and this week I decided to take a look at Quest for the Unicorn, or The Wishing Forest, a 2018 fantasy horror film. So if you thought we were getting away from horror this month just because we were watching a film about, a unicorn, you were dead wrong. This is not a kid's movie. This is a gore film, a low-budget gore movie set in the forest. A forest that has a wish-granting unicorn that can raise the dead. A wish-granting unicorn that may not exist and just might be purely mythical. Considering we only ever see the unicorn in this one character's dreams, there's a sound basis you could argue that this unicorn doesn't exist and it's just, an old wives' tale. It just also happens, that the location it supposedly lives in is full of cannibals. So we don't have a supernatural threat like demons. We have, humans that just love to eat, human flesh. And they also love to kill their victims, slowly. So they usually will, maybe cut you open a bit and then start ripping your insides out. Because I guess, hearing your screams, just adds to the experience, and that terror just adds a little bit of extra, to the flavor of your flesh. It's important that, you get those screams and have that, pants-shitting terror before you die, before they eat you. Albeit they're so ravenous, they will sometimes eat themselves to death, so they may not be the smartest of enemies. Though they also love to be extra disgusting by, covering themselves in armor. I guess that's meant to be the flesh of their previous victims. Which is why one guy has multiple faces, around his head. Though where the red eyes come from, I'm assuming they're contacts. But, yeah. We have a small number of cannibals, but they're threatening to invade the nearby town and eat everybody. Which just leads me to assume there's more cannibals in the forest than, are shown. But they're just so unimportant, they're just never, shown to the audience. It's like, it doesn't matter. We have our handful of people we can afford, in the mass, running around, and doing things. So, yeah, as far as the gore itself, it's not excessive to the point where it's hilarious or really bad CGI. It's various practical effects, with cheap-looking fake blood in some cases, where it looks like it might have been like Hawaiian Punch or something the guy was spitting out when he got hit in the face. Yeah, at least we have practical effects on display here, though. I'm partially wondering, if that's because they couldn't afford to put them in as a CGI effect, rather than because, the practical effect was the preferred option for them. I mean, sometimes it varies with the indie filmmaker you're dealing with, And this definitely feels like a low-budget indie movie. I mean, the estimated budget for this film on the Internet Movie Database is $100,000, which, in movie terms, isn't that much money. It's more than I'll see in a year, but for a movie, you're like, $100,000? Like, that's barely enough to get the film and stuff put together. So, yeah. If you like low-budget gore films, you might like this one. But if you prefer your gore films to be really excessive to the point, where it starts to just become hilarious, this will not satisfy you. And when you see them trying to supposedly eat the flesh, it also won't satisfy you because it's obvious they can't eat it because it's like rubber or plastic stuff that, just is coated in just tons of fake blood. Albeit in some shots the fake blood does look better than others. And if you're curious, there is some partial nudity in this one. So, if you want some exposed breast shots, I guess it's a little extra you can have with this film. It's got more than RoboCop does. Yeah, I haven't forgotten about that scene in RoboCop, where they're in the co-ed changing rooms and one of the women's breasts is on display. You definitely get more of that in this one. You even have a scene where the Queen of the Cannibals starts smearing some blood on one of her exposed breasts with her nipple hanging out. To try, show some weird, like, lustful relationship between her and Gore, I guess. I don't get it. Then again, every time they show her, they tend to have, if they have a close-up, you start hearing the words just blood over and over and over again in some ominous background way. like her staff is talking to her or something. Like, I don't get what's going on there either. Like, is she like the unicorn everyone's talking about or something? Because she has, necromancer powers and we just never see them in action? I don't know. About the only happy ending, our heroes and heroine can look forward to, is dying happy. One guy gets to realize, that he was finally able to do something for someone else. He was able to get over his selfishness and die selflessly for someone. The thief, I honestly don't know if he was satisfied with how he went out. I don't think he was, considering he kind of asked why. Why? Because you didn't abandon, this crazy woman he had the chance and trying to escape. Though where he'd escape to, I really don't know. Considering, if he went back to town, he'd probably just be sent back to the forest. Again. Considering, the townspeople are the ones that put the people out there to be sacrificed to the cannibals, because apparently the cannibals won't invade as long as they're given enough, supplies. So, you commit thievery or whatnot in that town, you're going to the forest of the damned and to be eaten alive. That is one scary town, I suppose, to live in. Like, you jaywalked across the street, get eaten. Like, that's your punishment. You can't jaywalk in this town. You gotta make sure we supply them enough, or they might come and eat the rest of us. I have to imagine it'd be one very paranoid town where you're always looking for someone to put a foot over the line, A miserable existence. But we don't get to ever see any shots of it, because, again, low-budget gore movie, therefore everything takes place in the forest. Which is kind of boring in a way, because you don't get really any other scenes. But yeah, like I said, if you like low budget gore films that don't have excessive blood and stuff, this might be up your alley. I mean, it's a 70-minute movie. It's pretty short, so it moves at a decently fast clip. But at the same time, the acting's stiff. Some I feel are trying harder than others. We get to our award-winning scene. I felt, slightly sorry for her. At the same time, I felt like she was, exaggerating, quite a bit. I guess I'll give her credit. At least it felt like she was finally trying when she got to the Oscar moment. But, yeah, this definitely isn't going to be a film I'd particularly advertise for people if you want, have a good time. Until next time, then. See ya.